I feel really bad for Georgina Campbell. Last week I saw her fighting these zombie things, now it's a psycho killer, and then a few years ago it was whatever the hell this is. There's two new horror movies hitting theaters this weekend, Psycho Killer and This Is Not a Test. I was able to watch both of them, so I figured I'd talk about them both in the same video. I am going to start with Psycho Killer, but I'll have timestamps below so you can skip to the next one if that's what you're here for. It's okay. Don't feel bad about skipping. I understand, but let's get into it. Psycho Killer follows a state trooper named Jane as she hunts down a serial killer she witnessed kill her husband. In her pursuit, she'll uncover the killer's big plan, but will she be able to stop him? After many delays, Psycho Killer is finally being released. When I saw the trailer a few months ago or whatever, I got really excited for this one. I was expecting just some dark, messed up shit with some brutal kills, and after watching it, I gotta be honest, I'm kind of let down. Most of my issues are with things that I expected would be guaranteed to land for me. For one, the kills. There were a couple of good ones, like the one in the church. That was pretty brutal. That's the type of thing that I was expecting, but most of the other ones were just kind of underwhelming. There's this big scene where the killer goes after a group of people, and I was expecting things to get really crazy, but instead, we get like some Zack Snyder type slow-mo and just a bunch of CGI blood splatter, so that kind of sucked. But there were a couple of other scenes throughout the movie where I thought the action was handled pretty well. Also, this group that the killer goes after is part of some satanic cult, and I just felt like when they were introduced, the tone shifted a little bit too much. It just felt kind of goofy and out of place. I also thought the aesthetic of the film would really hit for me, and it kind of did at times. Sometimes the imagery, the colors, the lighting are all great. There's some really good looking shots, but then most of the time it just kind of looks dull. The movie never looks bad, but it's just strange how we could go from something so visually appealing to just long stretches of just dullness. The film's written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven and a couple of other movies I like, but yeah, this isn't his strongest work. There's a ton of cliches throughout the whole movie, just like things you've seen in other horror movies, or exposition dumps via newscast and the radio, just stuff you've seen a million times before. The killer can be intriguing at times. He is this mysterious figure. You do kind of wonder what his motivations are and what his backstory might be, but at times, he can be a bit much. He's very clearly inspired by Richard Ramirez, a real-life serial killer, plus, I guess, every other devil-worshipping killer in media and real life. So we get a lot of like, oh, I'm evil, I serve Satan. The basic type of devil-worshipping thing, just like talking like they're big and grand and whatever. And also, they give him this goofy-ass deep voice. It sounds like someone in 2010 using an app on their phone. It was really bad. That did not help at all. I liked how the killer looked, though. I thought the mask was pretty cool, so that's a good thing. I also enjoyed getting quite a bit from the killer's perspective, and I don't just mean the kills. We actually get to see what he's up to and see him put certain plans into motion. This is something you don't really see often, and I did enjoy this aspect. It was pretty refreshing. And we do, of course, follow Jane doing her investigation, but really, it's mostly just her driving from place to place, checking if the killer had been there. We get this one scene where she cracks a code and she finds out where the killer's gonna be, but besides that, yeah, not a whole lot of true, like, investigating. Plus, there are some reveals in here, and honestly, they just don't make a whole lot of sense. And I wanted to mention, the film is pretty short. It's like 92 minutes with credits, and I was never bored, but I will say the film felt a lot longer than 92 minutes, so Psycho Killer has some pretty good moments and tells its story in an interesting way, so I left feeling satisfied, I guess. Most of the things that don't really work aren't horrible. They're either just okay or really cliche but done well enough. If you're someone that's really interested, I'd say to go check it out, but if you were kind of on the fence, you could skip it. You're not going to be missing out on much. When a zombie outbreak hits her town, Sloane finds her classmates and together they take shelter at their school. Is this something they can wait out, or will trouble find its way to them? If you're a fan of the book and we're really looking forward to this, I'm sorry, I can't imagine this is the adaptation you were hoping for. I haven't read the book, so maybe it's faithful, but it's definitely not a good movie. The movie starts and is immediately jumping all over the place. We get our opening scene, then we go to the next day, then we go back to the previous day, we get a flashback at some point, the story keeps going, okay, we're kind of catching up a bit, we get another flashback, okay. The story keeps going for a little bit, and then I think like 10 minutes after that, I think we got another flashback. And that isn't me summarizing like a huge part of this movie. That's only the first act. There's some interesting stuff in the first chunk of the film for sure. There's some nice zombie chases, some good kills with some good gore, some nice effects, but the way that they structure it is so jarring, and honestly, it just felt very unnecessary. Once things settle down and everything's established and the movie gets going, it dies a slow death. I have not been this bored watching something in an extremely long time. Majority of the runtime is this group of mostly uninteresting teens just kind of moping around the school with the occasional extremely forced drama. A movie centered around characters in one location without anything really happening can be done well, and it has, just not here. To pull that off, you need the audience to care about these characters and be interested in them and their dilemmas. The characters should be having some very engaging, interesting conversations, or at the very least, I don't know, throw some humor in there. This movie gave us nothing. The story deals with depression and suicidal thoughts, which could actually be a very interesting topic in an apocalyptic world, which I'm sure it was in the book. The idea of wanting to die but being faced with life or death situations all the time and being surrounded by people who have a lot of hope and just want to live so badly. The only issue is in the movie, they barely get into it. There's a few times where they tell you, hey, this character is very depressed, she's having suicidal thoughts, and they're just telling it to you, and I guess they show that she's sad, but that's about it. There is one line where she's really confronted by it, and you think, okay, here's going to be the big breakthrough or the big moment where they really address this, but it kind of just comes and goes. I really think the film needed to show her struggling more and give us more character development, because by the time we get to the end, it just wasn't hitting for me the way I think they wanted it to hit for me. But back to the school, there is one major thing that happens, and it could go some interesting places. There's something that they set up that leads nowhere, and then the way that it is resolved, it was just kind of underwhelming. And then it does come back up later, but then the way they handled that, I think was just stupid. There's character decisions in here that are truly just baffling, and when I'm watching something, that's just something I can't stand. I mentioned earlier that so much of the drama is forced, and wow, it really is. So much of the stuff that happens in this movie does not need to happen. But I guess for the sake of having a movie, it does. The last 10 minutes of the movie did get better, but by that point, I was just begging for it to end. I'm so glad I don't own a watch, because if I did, that's what I'd be doing every 5 seconds, believing that 10 minutes had passed. It's not the worst movie ever. There's some good stuff in the beginning and some good stuff at the very end. Most of the performances are totally fine. It's competently put together, but majority of the movie is such a drag and gave me absolutely nothing. Just skip this movie. It's not worth watching. But those were my thoughts on Psycho, and This Is Not a Test. Let me know yours, and please subscribe. I talk about movies, video games, TV, and more, or go watch some of my other stuff. I appreciate you watching this one. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.